Hi there everyone, this is Suncoast High School YouTutor presenting Espanol for present tense verb conjugations. Now, the best way to approach verb conjugations in Spanish or in any language is basically to practice them over and over again. So, let's start. This chart I find is really useful in making sure that I can remember and sort out all the different conjugations for the ER, the AR, and the IR verbs. So basically, here are the conjugations. For AR, it's yo ends in O, tú ends in as, usted ends in a, él and ella end in a, nosotros ends in amos, ustedes ends in an, ellos and ellas also end in an. For verbs ending with ER, yo ends with O, tú ends with es, usted ends with él and ella end with nosotros end with hemos, ustedes end with en, ellos and ellas also end with en. Now for verbs ending in ear, for yo it ends in o, tú ends in es, usted ends in él and ella end in nosotros end in imos, ustedes end in en, and ellos and ellas end in en. So between ER and IR, there are not that many differences except for the nosotros form, in which ER ends with hemos and IR ends with imos. All right, now let's get down to the irregular verbs in the yo form. So in the present tense, there are a few different, maybe 12 irregular verbs in the yo form. So let's go over them. Caber, which means to fit in the yo form in present tense, turns to quepo. Caer, which means to fall, goes to caigo. And let me repeat that these are only in the yo form. In all other forms, they are not irregular, they are normal. All right, our next verb is conocer, which means to know, and that goes to conozco. Dar, which means to give, goes to doy. Hacer, which means to do or to make, goes to hago. Poner, which means to put, becomes pongo. Saber, which means to know, becomes sé. Salir, which means to leave or to go out, becomes salgo. Traducir, which means to translate, becomes traduzco. Traer, which means to bring, becomes traigo. Valer, which means to be worth, becomes valgo. And lastly, ver, which means to see, becomes veo. A lot of these words might not be in your common, something that you use commonly. However, words like ver, poner, hacer, dar, conocer, salir, a lot of them are used, even though they may not seem like it, and it is important to know these irregular verbs in the present tense yo form. All right, let's do a little bit of practice. So, vivir to present tense nosotros form is vivimos. If we go back to our handy-dandy chart here, you can see that vivir ends in an IR, and it's in present nosotros form, so we would go to nosotros and come here, meaning it would end in imos, which is done here. So our next verb is comer. Comer means to eat. So comer here, you can see, ends in ER. So we're looking for our present EAS form. So let's use our chart again. Let's go to ER all the way down to EOS and EAS, and it ends in N. So that means that this verb, when conjugated, is comen. Okay, next one, hablar. Hablar means to talk. So hablar in present two form. So because it ends in AR, let's go to the two and the AR, and it goes to as. So that means that for hablar in present two form, the conjugated version is hablas. All right, the last one is poner to present yo form. So we just went over the irregular verbs in the yo form, and we figured that poner is an irregular verb in the yo form, and its conjugation is pongo. So it's important, extremely important, to know the irregular verbs because a lot of them are commonly used and it's important to be able to conjugate them properly, especially because a lot of teachers will take a lot of points off if that's wrong. Anyways, the best way to approach Spanish conjugation is to just keep practicing, and you will get it right. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is Suncoast High School YouTutor presenting, and thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.